2025 meeting of the Grafton School Committee. It's 7 p.m. I'm Amy Marr, the chair. Welcome, everybody. I will open the floor to public comment at this time, but I don't see anybody in the gallery that I'm unfamiliar with, so I'm going to say probably no public comment at this time. And move on to general business. Tonight we have with us officers of the CPAC, Special Education Parent Advisory Council. Thank you for putting that on your slide so I could read it. And they're here to give us an update on their activities for the year. So please introduce yourselves, and we're very excited to hear from you.
Thanks. So I'm the chairperson, second year, Nicole Press. Right now, our treasurer position is still vacant.
And I'm Stella Dekas. So I've been the secretary for just this term. I was previously the treasurer.
All right. I won't read the mission statement word for word. But basically, our mission is to collaborate between district team members, parents, families, students to get the best possible outcomes for all children with special needs. You know, we're looking to be collaborative with the special ed department, the committee, and the community. We are scheduling regular interactions through means of our regular monthly meetings. We've started coffee and conversations, which I'll touch upon. And we also have other outreach through social media and such, as well as our Everyday Heroes event at the end of the year.
And
go ahead.
yeah, and this is our schedule for the rest of the year. And then there's a link to the entire calendar and how to join our meetings. Most of them are virtual just for the ease of presentation and asking questions. And then just the Everyday Heroes will be in person going forward in May.
Our mission this year with the rollout of the new IEP form and such was to kind of gear our monthly meetings towards training topics. So we kind of recruited team members from the district and a couple of outside people to kind of come and present on a topic, as well as last month's was our basic rights presentation from the Federation. We focused on eligibility process. We've done the middle school we did already, right? That was
No, the high school.
High school we did already.
School,
So I
yep.
was trying to remember what I missed last month. Kid was sick.
And then next month, in a few weeks, we're going to do the preschool evaluation process. So that's good to bring in some new people because obviously from ages 3 and up, they can be part of the conversation. So
Yeah.
that's one that we haven't offered in a couple years. So it's good to have that as well. And then like the upper elementary, as our kids, seems like CPAC, most of our members were young elementary school age children. So as they gear up towards upper elementary, just helping them what to expect.
Mm-hmm. And then timing purposes, we chose to do the ESY one in April because that's usually when their stuff rolls out. I think Melissa and Nicole usually present that, right?
Yep.
And they'll talk about what their plan is for the summer, any differences, similarities, and kind of the Google Forms and all that info. And then May 8th is our CPAC Everyday Heroes, details to BD. And then we have a potential like final thoughts meeting in June, depending on how the end of the year goes. So last year we started establishing coffee and conversations. They're a little bit more frequent last year. We had a hard time getting it rolling this year with a smaller committee. So it's basically just, I attended a few MassPAC meetings with like the chairs of the state, and a lot of feedback we got was most of the CPAC meetings are in the evenings now, so a lot of parents have trouble getting on. So, you know, parents who can be available during the day asked that there would be another option for that, and also a more informal time to chat with each other. You know, because of a lot of the meeting topics and such, administration is often present, and sometimes it's not really like warm and fuzzy feeling for parents who are, you know, in process with conflict or, you know, tend to avoid those situations, no offense. But So it's like another informal time to get going on, to meet and chat and vent and anything necessary. So
Yeah.
our next one will be Thursday the 6th at 10 a.m. in the library.
And it's a nice space because we can all get together and, you know, you can come and go as you please. There's no, you know, you don't have to get there at a certain time. But we kind of keep it to an hour with a conversation. And these are the topics we addressed last year. So we just kind of went through our the tiered focus, parent orientation. For the basic rights from the Federation, we did the IEP presentation just to get everybody updated on what the new IEP form was going to look like. We also had trainings. Nicole had put on a training for us, and then towards the end of the year, it was like May or June, we did trainings in kind of each of the schools. So like North Grafton and South Grafton Elementary did one together. I believe North Street and Millbury Street. Then we had a separate one. The middle school and high school did one together. So just to get everybody familiarized with the new IEP form, what it would look like. So then we took a look again at our bylaws just to make sure that we were following those. And we had the mediation and facilitation training, which was really, really good. Just things that we haven't offered in previous years that we were able to touch upon last year.
Of course, our everyday heroes. So this year, our training topics were, the first one was our elections, and then we had the Grafton Rec come in to discuss some inclusive programming and the hiring of a, don't like me on the title, inclusion director, is it? Okay. And then we had the high school, secondary level talk about special ed topics and transition planning. We had our basic rights. We kind of already went through this. Last year, we made some updates to our website, and we also made a duplicate version of our website that is app-friendly, so it's like a mobile app. We also incorporated a anonymous parent feedback form. We've gotten a small handful of good feedback from that. That was another insight from the MassPAC, where a lot of parents were reluctant to reach out because they didn't want to be tagged. But I mean, I think we've gotten like 6 responses, and 5 out of the 6 were actually positive or constructive. It wasn't like, one was kind of venting, but it wasn't directive. It was more just like, I don't know what's going on, So that's definitely helpful. One thing that we're really working towards is outreach. So, we have our social media, we have connections through the special ed teams, but that's kind of an area that we struggle, is getting to all the possible parents and families.
And then one of the, oh, sorry,
It's okay.
yeah, I forgot about the slide. No, it's okay, go ahead. And then this was a recap of last year's Everyday Heroes. So we had 35 nominations. We were down 2 from the previous year, but it was nicely spread across all the schools this time. So I think we just need to have a little bit more awareness, in some of the schools that it's available, and, you can make a recommendation or a nomination for your favorite teacher, paraprofessional, any staff member, even students can be recognized as well. So we'll try to do a little bit more, marketing of that it's going on. Because I did hear from a few people asking if we were doing it, and it just ended, so I was ashamed to hear that.
And the bags were cute, so I don't know how we're going to top that. And that's just our contact info. Any questions?
Any questions? Go ahead, Leora.
I have a few. And they're all sort of, I think, actually related, and it's more about connections and how you reach folks. So, for example, like for the preschool evaluation process, how do you reach families that aren't already kind of in the system? And then sort of as a corollary to that, like how can we help support you reach more families in general, I guess?
I mean, I think that you're right. Like, due to obvious like FERPA regulations, I can't just say, hey, give me a list. So we've had to kind of rely on, like if we have preschool specific things, we try to go through the team chairs of SGS and NGS, ES, to try to, for their outreach or through Nicole, but you're right, like the people who aren't even starting the
Right,
enrollment process or, you know, actually another CPAC.
They might not even know about us
Right.
yet.
Another CPAC chair that I'm actually friends with, she said that they actually started reaching out to local EI
I was gonna ask, yeah.
companies. So I'm gonna find out like who services our kids the most. Area is it Thome?
I think it's,
Criterion.
Criterion,
Criterion?
Is the only-
Okay.
yeah.
yeah.
So that'd be another way to like get our brochures out there to them. And then another thing that people don't often consider too is there are students in district who are outplaced, who aren't on the mailing lists, often for the schools itself, so they should actually be privy to information for like school events and such, so that's been another kind of hiccup for us is to get information out to them, so we're kind of relying on social media and stuff for that, and then obviously they're opting in to be on that social media, so it's, you know, it's a struggle. We talked about doing like a opt-in Google form list for, then it's also getting it like a mailing list, but it's getting that out there, so any help would be great. And also for our events, like the Everyday Heroes and
Yeah,
such.
yeah. Sort of a corollary to that, or in addition, you know, it sounds like the informal, like the coffee and conversations are fun, and some other sort of socializing events might be really helpful, I think, for parents that might feel isolated. But you're not a PTG, right? So, but you have had a treasurer, so I'm wondering how we can kind of help facilitate, you know, some kind of more social activities for you as a group, right? To get more, because sometimes that'll draw people in if they see like a sensory friendly event or, so I don't know if there's anything happening in that regard or if you'd like there to be.
We would love to. I mean, there's always, we're always looking for, you know, low effort, not effort, like minimal effort, more like for families too.
Good drop
know,
by
yeah.
is usually like something that they can.
Like I've seen other districts do like, you know, they rent the space at launch for an hour or so and do like a a district specific time and block it off, and the place will offer like a reduced rate to families or something just to have that open time. And then, or things like that, just kind of like, so we don't have to do all the planning, more just like, here's a chunk
venue.
of funds, here's a get together, you know, all that. Yeah, we love we're open to ideas.
Right. Thank you. Great presentation.
Yes, Laura.
I'm gonna do Laura and then you.
First of all, thank you so much. This is a terrific presentation, and thanks for all your work. I hear great things, and it's such a valuable resource for families. So, thank you. I was just picking back off of Leora because I had the same question about the preschool families, and I was thinking maybe going a little old school and reaching out to some like the top preschools in the area, like Puckey Huddle in Sutton, Miss Tanya's in Westboro, the Grafton one, right? And maybe just giving flyers, like old, like photocopied flyers to let
We have
parents
some, yeah.
know. And also, and I'm happy to help. I hate to like bring up ideas.
Here's a great idea. Go do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Also, like contacting some like the community advocate, they'll publish, so people just to reach.
Okay.
I know I was a Westboro preschool family, and they sort of like hinted to me like, oh, you should have, and I was like so intimidated by the process, and so just having it like in my face would have been, and things are so much more accessible now than they were then, but just some thoughts. And yeah, just thank you. Like, it's so nice to see you all and appreciate it. And anything I can do to share and amplify, I'm happy to do.
I
Yeah, those
actually
are
have
good.
another, I mean, my friend lives in a different district, and she said every time she gets the basic rights packet, which is pretty much, she gets a CPAC flyer.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
it's actually, if it's digital, it's attached to the same email, or if it's,
I bet
you
we
know.
know where most of our kids come from, maybe.
Well, I'm saying,
too,
because if a
right?
parent makes a
Yeah,
referral or
lower.
requests an eval, like, that's a time to like hand it over too. Like,
Right.
we're not always, sometimes it's a little link in one of the team chairs' email, but it's not like, here's what we're actually about kind of thing,
Yeah.
so.
And if they're new to, getting evaluations, they
Yeah.
may not realize that, there is a community out there to support them.
And you hear a lot of negative, just like you're going into this crazy world, not crazy, but it's like a hard world to navigate. It's depending on what your child needs are too, so.
And the district I used to teach in, we had like the brochures and a stand on every conference room table, like that we would have IEP meetings at, just so grab and go. Any other questions?
Yeah, just one more question. So I did go to your coffee hours last year. Those were wonderful. I'm excited for the next one. You said briefly that your board has shrunk. Are you having trouble getting people to be part of the board? Is there, what when you say shrunk, what does that
We
mean?
had 3, now it's just us 2.
No, it's just two.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we really don't collect any money, so we have
No.
a treasurer position, but the only time we collect money is for Everyday Heroes, and that money basically just kind of comes in and it's used as like the gift, the swag that they receive, so, yeah. So we'll just take it on. But if anybody is interested, we could always.
Co-chairs are nice.
Yeah,
So, I
exactly.
mean, kind of on that note is 2 things. So another, something we just discovered a few months ago in one of the trainings I went to is that CPACs, since a while ago apparently, no longer have to follow open meeting laws or like a private, so we don't really have to do like the submitting the agenda and the minutes and like all that, though, we still have to kind of give general agenda topics for purposes of you guys and such, but
Makes so much sense.
it makes, because we're more like an advisory council, not, a official entity of the county. And the other piece is most districts now have a appointed kind of liaison from the committee to be the CPAC rep. And I don't know if there's actually someone appointed, so volunteers taken. I mean, I think.
I mean, I'd certainly be happy to do it. It makes sense.
Wait,
We're looking at you.
Everyone's looking at me.
Well, it came up, I think, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. I remember we discussed it.
Yeah.
And at the time, the committee didn't want to appoint anybody to
Yeah.
that role. But it could have just been because we were busy and we have all these other things that we do. But it's something we would have to discuss and then take action on. So it's definitely something, if people want to talk about it at a future meeting, we can do that.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
should.
and I don't think it would be like time consuming. I mean, we're
No.
not looking to, hold anybody for a long period of time. It just be a good sounding board. Like if you have questions, it's nice to go to a certain person.
Then sending the all email, yeah. Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you so much. We
No
appreciate your
Thank you.
time. Thank you for the presentation.
You're
And we'll
Julia.
continue. I know
Okay.
we all have social media, so we all share things out when we see it. It's
Yeah,
just-
that's great.
I think one of the hard things now is that the algorithms are changing. And so I know I personally am not seeing the content that I saw 6 months ago. So I'll make a concerted effort. I jotted it down to go and look for you guys and make sure that I'm still following you and I can share out things as I see them. So that does help.
Yeah, I mean, when I post, I try to do like to the Grafton moms, to the all Grafton, to the district
Yep.
one, like, I know it's gotta get approved, but like,
Yep.
all those things, but it doesn't always.
You do
Yeah.
a great job.
You
There's
do.
always gonna be people who are like, I didn't know
see
about
it.
it.
100%.
Gotta keep trying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, there's also the Grafton News, but I have no idea what their subscriber situation is right now.
Is it back up?
Grafton News is still printing.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
If you want the online version, you have to pay now,
Oh, gotcha.
which I think might have caused a reduction. But I don't have a sense of how many of the younger parents are subscribed to that. It's worth a look, I guess.
Yeah.
So we still have to publish our legal hearings in that, so. All right, that's exciting. Anyway, thank you again so
Thank
much.
you.
Stay warm.
Much, you guys.
Okay. We're gonna move on to school update, Grafton Middle School. We have Mr. Starr and Ms. Martinello.
Martelli.
Martellio, I
No
always get
Ns.
that wrong. I apologize. I had it in front of me, I would have said it.
Yeah. I thought we'd have Mr. Starr
there you are.
joining from the car. I love Mr. Starr from the
Mr.
car.
Tar, yeah, that's fun.
Wait, you can run out there if you want.
I could.
We'll project him up on
teleport
the
in?
screen.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, admin, thanks very much for the opportunity to give us a chance to tell our story. I'm Chris Starcheski, principal at Grafton Middle.
Christine Martellio, assistant principal.
Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit of an overview of our entire school program, a little data dive into a couple of big areas that we've seen some marked improvements with our team in the past couple of years. Talk about student life beyond the classroom, and then an overview of all of our academic experiences that we provide as a good feeder experience, I think, to the high school or to BVT or wherever kiddos may go.
So these next few slides are mine. So thank you very much for allowing us to brag about our staff and faculty and students. So we're really excited. We've got a lot of slides here, so we'll try not to drag on. So you can kind of see here real quick. I just wanted to gather some data for you guys about behavior and then a little bit about attendance. Those tend to be kind of, those were our main focuses the last few years, especially the behavior statistics. So a few years ago when I started that summer, I met with a bunch of the teachers and we put together a behavior matrix, and we kind of talked a lot about, you know, what levels different behaviors are and what our expectations are, and then how are we going to follow through with, you know, these are our expected behaviors, and how are we going to teach that to the students. So we just kind of embellished on what was already happening in the One Grafton, and we just kind of just towed the line a little bit differently, but very similar situation as far as teaching it to the students. The biggest thing I've found over the last few years is the restorative approach is really where we're heading, and where we have headed, because we really, when we have situations with students, whether teacher managed behaviors, office managed behaviors, whatever we're doing, you know, we know that the punitive works to an extent, but really it's not teaching students anything, right? So in the end of the day, what we want is for students to understand, you know, what their behavior was, why did they do that, and how are we going to now repair it so it doesn't happen again. So for us, that's the biggest piece, right? And the other piece with behavior that I just want to touch on real quick is that, you know, we do it as a team. So very rarely do I just make a unilateral decision. I will bring in the counselors. I will bring in the student. I work with Michelle Narducci all the time when we're talking about students that she works with. She's our speech and language pathologist, and she really helps the kiddos to understand kind of what's going on with them. And then the counseling the families. I actually had 2 families in today. So like the first thing we do is we call home and, you know, and welcome to come in. I'm going to talk to your kiddo. Do you want to be part of that conversation now or later or not at all? So I think that that's really helped to just kind of bridge the gap between kind of home and school, and that we're all we all have the same outcome in mind, right? We all want the students to grow and learn from their behaviors, whether they be good or bad. So that's what I'm going to say about the bad stuff. So our absences, these are, it was really hard for me to figure out how to give you guys information about our attendance because it's very variable. Just so you know, all the data you'll see for this year is only for the first half of the year. I did this at the beginning of January. So it's a little skewed, but it still gives you kind of an idea that, you know, our data is definitely improving. You know, we do with our absences, again, we use a proactive approach for absences. We do meet monthly. We also meet with I'll be talking about our SSTs later, which is our student support team meetings. And we meet periodically to talk about, you know, what students have been absent, why have they been absent, who's going to reach out to the families. So our first step is always, you know, let's contact and see what's going on, right? So we'll send a letter, and then one of our support team will call and set up meetings and see what we can do to help this family, whatever the situation might be. You know, in the extreme cases, we have had to file CRAs, which is a child requiring assistance, and we usually do that in partnership with the family, and that helps to get them some of the maybe resources that they might not have access to otherwise. That is a last resort. We try not to go that route if we don't have to. If we can provide the supports on our own, we don't want to get court involved if we don't have to. But
in the case where we need to, sometimes we will. And this is the same idea, and this is just showing our tardy statistics. So we haven't seen a huge, you can see that the trend's definitely going down. Again, this year is a little different because it's only half the year. So when we get to the end of the year, are we still going to be in the same, at the same trend? It's hard to say. But I do think that, again, we are seeing those trends. We're seeing the same kind of kiddos. It's not as widespread. And that has to do a little bit, too, with we've kind of changed the schedule around as to how we're doing things and what classes they have first, second, third. And we'll talk a little bit more about our academics in a bit.
Can I just interrupt you for one
Yeah,
second? We have
please.
a member with a question.
I just have a question about reading the graph.
Oh, sure. So
Shocked, I'm struggling with
it's
like,
okay.
the numbers.
So the yellow is 22, 23, the pink is 23, 24, and then the blue is 20 this year.
I get that.
And
What are the numbers
Sure.
at the top? So is that that can't be 11? Is that 1,100 kids or 111 kids who are absent more than 100 days? Like, what are the?
okay, so the bottom is the percentages. So I didn't do it by number of days they were at. I did it by percentage of the school year. So for the blue, that is the percentage of the school year. So in other words, if you're looking at like the 5% all the way to the right, those are the bigger ones. It might be easier to read.
Can you go to the absence one?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm absent.
So if we go again to the 5 to 10%, that might be easier to read. So there, 111 students were in that range of 5 to 10% of their school year was absent. So between
5 to 10%. That's what I was missing.
Correct.
Gotcha. I thought it was 111 days, and I was like, no.
oh no.
Now I
So
understand.
111 students were in
5
that
to
5 to
10%.
10% range.
Thank
Yep,
you.
no
Gotcha.
problem.
So right
Just
now,
refresh me real quick, what's your enrollment?
We're around 500-ish, give or take. We're between 475 and a little over 500. It depends on when you're looking at it.
but looking at this year, I would say this data is actually a little concerning, right? Because we're only half the year, and we're already up to 66 days.
But it's a percentage, so it's not going to continue to grow. It's just, the kids who are being absent are perhaps going to continue to be absent, but the percentage is still going to
Thank
stay
you.
the same.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you for letting
Yeah,
me
so
know.
they might pop from one to another, but,
Right.
from one category to another, they might, instead of being between 5 and 10%, they might move up. So, just trying to kind of gather the data, and we can share this with you if you'd want to kind of dig into it more, but that's kind of the idea. It was just kind of to look at the trends.
Yeah, I got you now. No.
There's just so many different ways to look at it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Appreciate the explanation. Thanks. And thanks, Rebecca.
I'm always here to help with math.
You got me. Some of us.
Okay, now here's some of the good stuff.
So outside the classroom, yes, we're in session 7:25 until 1:45 now, I think, with the academics. But we do have a pretty robust student life. I mean, some of the activities and clubs are student-driven, student interest-driven. Some are teacher or staff passion, and they pursue. They range from art to engineering to math team to jazz band, select chorus, Lego club, homework club, improv, creative writing. We have a GSA, we have a puzzle club, Lego club, coding club, anime, Dungeons and Dragons, stock market challenge. In terms of middle school, having worked in a couple others, this is really cool. Beyond that, we've got our tradition that's set up now with our DC trip that Ms. Martelli will talk about. We take some French students to Quebec, 2 overnights in a school of this size in this age group is a little crazy, but it's also pretty amazing. And then, we've got the traditional middle school concerts and spring play, which last year was a musical if you were able to enjoy Alice in Wonderland, and we're preparing now. They haven't settled on a title yet, but they'll be coming out very soon. So a lot of ways that we can engage the kids beyond the school day at GMS.
So I'll talk just a little bit about our Washington, D.C. trip. So we take our 8th graders to Washington this year. We have about 180 students coming, a little over 20 adults. And, I can't talk about the trip without thanking all of the people that helped to make it happen, right? So I'll start with some of our parent volunteers, and they have raised upwards of $9,000 already this year, and we've actually given out 7.5 full scholarships. So I think we had 2 or 3 full, and then the rest were half scholarships. So there were we have a lot of students coming with, not having to pay the full amount, which is amazing. When I had a student say, well, I can't come because I can't pay, and I said, no, you don't have to pay, we'll pay for you. What? I'll call your parent and tell them right now. And it's so wonderful to be able to do that. So we have Lisa Hall, who has head up that committee and done an amazing job. She's also has some help from Diana Montville, Jessica Prone, Candace Lefebvre, Dawn Anderson, Wendy Allen, and I'm sure there are many others. But those are the ones that I know are going out and reaching out to the community and asking for donations. And we've had donations anywhere from $100 to $1,000. So it's been pretty amazing. And if you want to know who to support, go check out our Facebook page because we're giving them shout outs. And they're pretty awesome. So that's what I wanted to say about that part. And it's just super fun. It's so much fun. Oh, wait, did I skip one?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, we're good. I thought we
Yeah.
were doing Quebec next. Go.
Friday night, we're dancing. We've got the winter ball, winter snowball that the student council's putting on. They're working really hard selling tickets through this Thursday. We've, of course, got the tradition at GMS, the luau, which when I first heard about it, I thought it was a little wacky. But it's also really, I'm going to use the word awesome again, that there's so many caring parents and caregivers in the community that put the whole show on, and we show up and run crowd control and traffic control. It's a wonderful community event. Up in the top left, we got kind of an example of just that inclusivity that we're going for. We've got something for everybody, and they participate to their level, and it's pretty exciting. So we're looking to continue the tradition and expand that. We put this slide in as a student-staff basketball game because it's kind of a, did we win or did we actually lose last
Doug,
night?
I
Scoreboard
think
might
that-
not indicate the true score. We'll leave it at that. But prior to this year, there was a few years ago, COVID, and that took away a lot of activities and a lot of elements of tradition that existed. And we brought that back last year. We're going to continue it this year. And one of the key areas of focus for this is a book study that about 12 members of our faculty and staff are engaging in. The book is called The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath. And early on in the book, it talks about peak moments, moments that individuals may be impacted longer down the road. They might recall, it might make them a better person, whether it's a positive or it's a negative. And it's something that's significantly memorable. So we challenged our faculty and staff back in December to ask each team, interdisciplinary team, our related arts curriculum team, special education team, what are you going to do this year that your kids are going to remember when they're our age? And we tasked them with the idea of, let's go ahead and create some peak moments, peak experiences beyond what we currently do. And we've got a few that are in the works. We've got a surprise coming for our 8th grade in about 4 weeks. Can't tell you about it right here because they could see.
That is our fan base. I don't know if you know that.
Everyone is here, they're all at home, full screening this in the selectmen's meeting.
It's true. It's true. They told me about it today. Lunch.
So we're challenging our teams to up their game and really bring that middle school vibe back. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a great middle school vibe, but I like it to be better. I think about tiny steps forward so we can go ahead and continue that flywheel effect and get bigger and better. Our related arts team, I believe there's something on their slide later on about what they're looking to do as an example. So we're bringing it all back beyond the teaching and learning, which is just fantastic and fun.
And we'll get back to some of those things later, but we're going to dive in a little bit to our academics. So I'm going to be talking about ELA and math. I don't think they're coming side by side, but we'll get there. But ELA last year started the Wit and Wisdom curriculum and content. And Wit and Wisdom really is made up of 5 kind of big ideas, right? So the first is their core knowledge building. So they have diverse texts. It's high quality texts. And it integrates history, science, and art into the text and into whatever it is that they're reading about. And I've actually seen that in action in some of our classrooms, which is really kind of neat. Like I'll walk into an ELA classroom and they're talking about like the Civil War or World War II or why things happened. And it was like, whoa, wait, what? And so they're kind of giving kids core background information as to what's going on in the book and what's going to be happening next. So it is really nice how it kind of integrates all that together. It kind of forces them to think critically and analyze the text. So that's kind of the second piece, is doing a lot of analysis of what's going on within the story, why is this happening, and really doing a deeper dive than just reading a story. With that is also a lot of writing development. So it kind of gives them the 3 different tiers of writing, which is probably not considered tiers. I'm not an ELA person, but the narrative, the expository, and the argumentative. So it really kind of deep dives into how do we, take this story and then split it into different ways to write about these topics and situations. It brings in cultural awareness. I'm gonna switch to grade 8 so you can see that piece. Where it talks about some of the bigger ideas, and it questions them, how do they bring themes of empathy and cultural literacy and things like that. So it kind of is tying all that. And then finally what it does, which is nice, because I remember it actually less than 5 years ago, I walked into a classroom where they were still like talking about prepositional phrases and those kinds of things, like in that way, where here they embed all of the vocabulary and the language skills into the content and curriculum and what they're doing every day. It's part of the writing process. It's part of what they're doing on a day in and day out situation. It's not like they take a whole month and talk about, where do I need a period and when do I capitalize? It's more like embedded in the whole process. And so it just kind of ties everything. It's a different way of looking at the content and curriculum, which is really nice. And then what they also want to talk a little bit about, and we're going to get in, actually, I think this is the next one. Hold on. Yes, it is. So a couple of their peak moments. One is and we have Janet coming again this year. She's phenomenal. So if you haven't seen her and you can come and see, I don't remember the date, but if you're interested in coming in and watching, let us know and we can send you the date. So Ms. Karpaska, actually the former principal, brought in Janet Applefield years ago to speak to the students. So Janet is a Holocaust survivor, and she has written this book, Becoming Janet, and she talks to the kids, and she has a slideshow presentation that goes along with it about her journey. And she brings it to their level, so they really are super interested. It's really cool, and they want to come up afterwards and get her autograph and those kinds of things. So it just kind of puts a face to a situation that wasn't really so great, and maybe they've read about a little bit of it, but then they can actually, she does a Q&A and they can actually come up and talk to her about that. So she really has dedicated her life to doing this and kind of spreading awareness and spreading her story, and we're really lucky that she comes and talks to our students about this. It's been really great. And Nancy Athanas is still currently in the middle school in our 7th grade, and she's who has now kind of taken over and keeps this alive with us for us, and has Janet come. And then the other piece they mentioned, which we don't have a slide for, but was that the visit to the Hanover. And so bringing the kids to see the Christmas Carol, it's really kind of it's a cool experience, even if they don't like the story itself, them being able to go and experience something like that. A lot of them haven't ever had to do that before, right? They haven't had to dress up and then sit and then watch a play and be in a place like the Hanover Theater, which if you have never been, it's a beautiful spot, just to kind of experience that. So it's kind of a neat experience for them. So that is ELA.
On to world language. We offer French and Spanish at the middle school. And as we get into the experience with world language, we're really looking at students being engaged for most of them the first time. So the utilization of the comprehensible input model is in full force at the middle school. Comprehensible input is not, those of you who took French in 7th and 8th grade like me, you probably remember conjugating the verbs and doing a lot of writing with formal grammar. There's a little bit of that here. Comprehensible input really focuses on song, interaction, engagement, storytelling, conversation, active learning strategies that really bring kids along in their language experience. So that way they're engaged with it and they're responsible for engaging others, which is really key. If you've got a little peer pressure talking and, or peer assistance, it can be pretty helpful. Active learning strategies common in the classroom, the carousel, fishbowl, pass it up, where students are just completely engaged, following rules, norms are well established in those environments. Other ways that kids express their learning through song and dance. They'll take brain breaks because it can be somewhat taxing. Utilize choice boards to give students opportunity to select how they want to express their learning. Continuation of our UDL experiences in the past couple of years and multiple means of representation and expression. And of course, we've got our music showdown coming up in March for favorite bands, which is always a hit. In social studies, in the 8th grade, where the primary focus is here, we're studying civics. You know, that curriculum shift occurred a few years ago. And we're exploring a curriculum that's put out by the 1-8 Foundation and is backed by Department of Elementary and Secondary Education called DKP, the Democratic Knowledge Project. In one of the sections in the 8th grade, well, 5 of the sections in the 8th grade, that curriculum is being piloted cover to cover. And what we found that it is very meaningful to the student's journey and understanding of civics. It takes them from the very beginnings of civic understanding and moves them into the action project that they've got to complete as a part of the civics requirement. So as they're going through the DKP experience, they're not only learning about the civics, but they're applying the units to the creation and development of their project. So it's not like it's going to be for moms and dads who are watching or other caregivers the night before that you have to go get a poster board at CVS to pull a project together. This project is being built throughout the year and it will be a kind of a culminating experience for the students. In the social studies department, they created a department goal for all teachers to look at utilization of technology in the classrooms for learning and for teaching. So one of the instructional specialists, technology specialist, Krista LeBrun, meets with the team monthly and goes over different types of tools and allows them to go into the sandbox with her and experience different ways that artificial intelligence can support creating a lesson plan, or how AI or other technology resources can scaffold reading for students to get different reading levels. So all students can be reading the same content despite their difference in reading abilities. And for students, looking at how certain tech tools can be effective for their learning and their expression of their learning. You know, big topics in education right now is AI, and students will just have ChatGPT write their essay. Well, that's plagiarism and cheating. We want them to be able to explore the use of AI in an appropriate way to help them. Maybe they can get grammatical feedback from ChatGPT, or work on the punctuation, or generate a list of brainstorm topics and then go in and deeper research those topics. So that department is really kind of being at the forefront in our school of the work with technology. And then, of course, those fancy 4 letters, MCAS. The Civics MCAS started out officially last year. We'll be diving in with all elements of that assessment this year, and looking at a performance task component that students will preview and complete in the classroom, and then they will utilize the knowledge that's been acquired from that performance task to address the performance task section of the assessment. And then there's the end of course test, which is kind of your traditional final exam, or MCAS, if you will.
Can I just interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
Can you just explain what do you mean by a performance task? It sounds like it's an essay. Am I
Sure.
wrong?
Well, the performance task itself, the expression of the learning on the MCAS itself it might be a multi-part experience. It might be a drag and drop. It might be an essay. It might be some multiple choice questions. But it's all related to a very specific scenario or task that's been presented to the students. So they may ask a question of, this bill was stalled in the House and got kicked back and then was resurfaced. What are the steps for the bill to be passed now? And the students will go through and study that entire process and apply it to that task.
Can we require everybody in town to take that, or just the students?
My hometown doesn't see this, so I would encourage them to all participate.
What do you, I mean, there are some kids for whom the MCAS, just the letters MCAS, gives them anxiety. What can the teachers and the staff do to alleviate their concerns and encourage them to just do the best they can? No one's going to be kicked out of school or, be grounded or anything like that, but like help them understand that this isn't necessarily a test of their ability.
Correct.
How can you do that?
I think we do a pretty fair job of doing what you're asking. MCAS is MCAS. It's an end-of-course assessment that allows us to look at how well we did at teaching our students. Don't get me wrong, it's a very important metric, right? For us, the adults. And for kids who want to see where their improvement is, where their growth has been, civics is tough because it's a one-and-done assessment, right? There is no growth associated to it.
Right.
I could talk ELA and math and science, technology, and engineering, because those are measured multiple years, so there are multiple data points. I focus on the growth. I want our students to be able to grow, to be better, not worry about the final score on the assessment. That student growth percentile is really key. Every morning at the end of announcements, I conclude with what I hope everybody in the building is believing. Work hard to get smart and make it a great day for learning, right? Working hard no one is smart. We all have to work hard at it. We think we're smart, but we can always be better. So with MCAS, it can be a high stress experience. We're as laid back as we possibly can be when we have 462 kids testing. We just want them to do well, just like they do every day.
I mean, I think the other piece too is that with the addition of STAR, the STAR testing, students
Not me.
are being benchmarked throughout the year. So
Right.
we're looking at, where are they now? Where were they before? Where do we need them to be? So I don't think it's just it's hard because it is a singular data point, and we still don't get the results really in a timely fashion so that we can work with those students that are currently in that class during that time. But with the STAR, we can.
Right.
And so, hopefully over the course of the next few years, as kids get used to taking STAR more often as well, this will just be another data point to them as well. And this is just another way to kind of show what I do and don't, what I can and can't do. And it won't be, super stressful for those kids that it's stressful for. I mean, text anxiety is real. But I think the more you do something, the less stressful it becomes because you know that it's not that big of a deal. So hopefully that's where we get with some of those kiddos.
And I think the final thought that I would have on that, you reminded me of a very important piece. Our student support team and our teachers really know the kids very well. There's a provision in the test administration, principal administration manual that allows us to decide if students would be better served in a small group test environment. So that way we can provide them with a smaller setting so they're not as worried about their peers, the environment. It's a little bit more laid back when we're testing in every single nook and cranny in the building, mainly because of that, because of our real small group needs. We really want to minimize the impact on kids and focus on that learning component. But thank you for asking the question. I can share some letters I've written to Department of Ed over the years, if you'd like, at some point.
Yeah. All right, so special education. We had CPAC up earlier, and so they are, there's right behind me.
They stuck
I saw something there, so I thought they might still be here. So thank you, ladies. So they are, our parent support for our special education, what we do every day. And we have kind of a lot of levels, if you will, of special education. And I'm not sure how familiar everybody is. But, with our special education, I think we go into every meeting, approach every student with, the least restrictive environment. And we want to give them the best experience they can possibly have to whatever it is that they need, right? So, in our school, we have an inclusion model where we have paraeducators and/or our special education teachers working with the regular education teachers. In our co-taught models, there's 2 teachers every day, and they're both working together so students can access whatever it is they need to access. And we've been really working hard or the teachers have been working really hard together to make that experience as rich as possible. We also have small group classes, so we do have some students that still you need a smaller setting. So that's, a group of 20, 25 students is just too much for them. And so we do have a handful of classes where we have 7, 8, 10 students, and some of those are also co-taught, but most of those are taught by our special education staff. And we also have pull-out instruction and support on a more one-to-one level, which we'll get into in a minute when I talk about some of our specialized programming. So all right, that's coming next. There we are. So two of our programs in our building specifically, one is Lighthouse, and I know they talked a little bit about this program, I think it was last month or maybe the month before, when we had our counseling team come in. But our Lighthouse really is a Tier 3 support, and it has two different arms, if you will. So one is the student support program, and the other one's transition. And so it changes, the face of Lighthouse changes on a regular basis depending on the needs and who we have in our building at the time. If we have somebody that goes out for a month because they had to have a surgery, or maybe they've been traveling, they had to, we have several families that, they spend part of the year in another part of the world because that's where their family is. And so they need someone, or they need somewhere to help them transition back into the building. So if they've been out for a long stretch and they missed a lot of curriculum, and that is okay, we need to figure out how do we again catch them back up without just throwing them back in. And so Lighthouse is our spot for that. It is run by Mr. Gleason and Ms. Gasper, and they are both phenomenal with working with the students. They work with the teachers, they go to every single classroom, they find out what the students need, and if the students need that support within their Lighthouse smaller setting, that's what they get. But with always the goal is to bring the kids back to the classroom for as much as they can. So whatever that they can handle. And so if it is, a student that's just transitioning back, we had one last year, was able to transition back into all their classes pretty much except for math, because they were like, we don't know what we're doing. We weren't here for this whole chapter. And so Mr. Gleason sat down with them and was able in a week or so, 2 weeks, to catch them up to where their peers were. That's all they needed it for. Everything else they were pretty much able to do independently, or they were able to kind of keep in touch with online when they were out. So that's super helpful for our students. And then we also have the student support program, which is for more long-term students who might need different types of supports. So within those supports, there's individualized counseling. So Ms. Gasper is our adjustment counselor that's attached to that program, and she will do one-on-one counseling with those students. They have more intense counseling. They have behavior interventions, so some of the students in there need a more specific behavior plan where they get different breaks and they can earn different things, and that's what they need to keep them motivated so that they can get to each classroom and then get back and do what they need to do in order to complete their day. And then obviously, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Gleason has done an amazing job with the academic support and being able to kind of catch every single student to where they are and teach them what they need. And I'm not sure how he does it, but he figures it out and he gets it done. So, the goal is always to empower those students to overcome whatever challenges they have, whether it's a long-term absence or something that, happened that morning on the way to school, and to get them to their full potential and get them in those classrooms and transitioning back and learning as much as we possibly can get them learning. And our next one, I'm so excited to talk about our PAL Academy. So these kids are just the highlight of our day. They're the sweetest things. Jill walks in with me every day. She greets me at the door and she's, let's go. And we walk arm in arm to the classroom. So this is our life skills classroom, to where we have Mrs. Grollo, who is now spearheading and our main teacher in that classroom. And she is supported by, both actually classrooms are supported by a plethora of wonderful and caring paraeducators. So in this classroom, every lesson, and there's she has a matrix that she puts up every morning to where everybody's going and what everybody's doing and who's having what lessons when, and when is the SLP coming in, and when are we going to OT, and when are we going to PT. And so it's a hustle and bustle, and there's a lot going on. But she also brings them all back together to do different activities, whether it be cooking. This you'll see here, these were some great pictures we had a therapy dog. been really fortunate to have a grant and bring in a therapy dog a few times. And so they loved having a couple of dogs in there the few days and kind of just getting to just snuggle on a puppy. Who doesn't love that, right? And so, they're always trying to, again, fostering their independence and confidence and, putting them into the classrooms as much as possible, wherever they see fit. And I think that's it for me. You're next.
Oh, I get to speak again.
It's you.
Yay.
I love bragging about our kids.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy. So science, inquiry-based experience, trying to, in 7th grade, really asking the kids after a topic's been presented, what do you wonder? What are you curious about? What do you want to know? And then framing learning around that, being able to go ahead and have, traditional teacher-presented material or kind of a real inquiry-based model. What do you want to know? What's your question? And then have kids go ahead and research the question and apply it. Teacher ties it together. May or may not have a lab experience, hands-on experience. Some of the labs in 7th grade are hands-on down in the science lab. Some are virtual labs where the students are collecting data, learning how to record data from a virtual experience. It can be a lot cleaner with 7th graders that way. In 8th grade, again, being able to have the kids own their learning within the curriculum, continue to pursue some higher level lab experiences to prepare them for science at the high school level, learning the elements of the lab report, learning how to write a very strong hypothesis, how to analyze the data and create a very strong conclusion. While we may not formally be writing the lab reports, they're well prepared for that 9th grade lab experience. Related arts. Oh, this will be a long one.
Yeah, you got a
it
few
won't
of
be
them.
long. I'll move on.
You got a whole bunch of them.
So related arts. Some schools will call them unified arts. Some schools will call them allied arts. We call them the related arts because they are very much related to students' interests and passions that they may pursue beyond a traditional academic path, right? From the visual arts to our Project Lead the Way programming in engineering or in computer coding, to general music, to health or physical education. Students' interests can be piqued. Today there was a pickleball lesson going in the phys ed classroom. They'll learn the rules to volleyball. They'll learn the terminology in the spring time, and in the fall they'll be outside learning games that we play. Baseball and softball, soccer, basketball. But beyond that, they're really being focused on aspects of teamwork and being able to communicate effectively with a peer. This is one of those peak experiences at the bottom. The Related Arts team is creating, they're calling it a Related Arts Celebration of Learning Day. We're actually going to go ahead and take all that down, and we're calling it a Related Arts Field Day. Students are going to choose, they're going to choose their favorite related arts experiences. And for an afternoon, they're going to be placed into those experiences where they're going to complete certain activities and challenges related to that content. So if they're in the visual arts, they may have some painting challenges put at them, or some clay work that might need to be done in phys ed, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of a neat way for the culmination of the 7th and 8th grade related arts experience, get them to apply everything that's there. I'm not going to talk about everything that we do in all these classes, but just as a reminder, we've got our physical education class, our general music class, where the students learn how to read music, play music, and compose music, which is actually very cool, utilizing piano, ukulele, and electronic music tools. Concert chorus, select chorus, our performance groups, the Grafton Middle School Band, which I'm pretty proud of and I play with every now and then, dust off the trumpet that's in my office. Tech Ed was replaced this year with Project Lead the Way, which is the course that we're utilizing in 7th and 8th grade this year is design and modeling, where this really teaches students to apply learning to solve a real world problem. I'm going to talk a little bit about applied learning later on. But this program is also offered in the computer application side, where we're teaching kids how to, it's called Computer Science for Innovators and Makers. We've got our health class where the students go through a variety of lessons in 7th and 8th grade, including the bulleted one at the very bottom. Yes, we do teach sexuality education in the 8th grade. Students engage in a variety of activities designed to address their overall wellness and
Usually only 1 or 2 kids pass out.
personal
during that
development.
unit.
Yeah, we only had one last cycle, which was good. Call for the wheelchair.
It goes whoop. Happens.
The Botvin Life Skills curriculum is utilized, and these are the different units that the students will go through in their time at Grafton Middle School. A lot of this parallels some of the discussion that occurs in our SMARTS and our SEL class with our counselors. But really talking about coping strategies for anxiety, as an example, is one really big piece. Teaching the kids different mindfulness activities that they can utilize at home when they're studying for a test. That transference is very important, so it's not just isolated to the health classroom. Mathematics is you? Mathematics
me,
is you.
yeah.
You.
So we, last year, there was a pilot, and they piloted 2 different curriculums for the first half of the year. I like to call them primary resources, because the curriculum is, all the topics and so forth. It's just what resource are you using in order to teach those topics. And so the team decided to use illustrative mathematics. And so these are the different topics. This is our first full year of integration. So in 7th grade, we have scale, proportion, circles, percentages, rational numbers, inequalities, probability. In 8th grade, transformations, linear relationships, functions, volume, exponents, scientific notation, and the Pythagorean theorem. So when you're talking about IM is a little different way to approach how students are learning math. It's not the traditional kind of chalk and talk, and then we're going to do a worksheet with 50 problems on it, and they're going to get harder as we go through the worksheet. It's more about problem-based learning. So, what is the problem? What is it that, what are we seeing? What are we wondering? What's happening here? Why is it happening? A lot of real-world connections. So, how are, you can see some of the questions in there where the kids are working together, and why are we doing it this way, and how is it solving that way? And there's a lot of questions, and when you're questioning them and they have to think about it and talk about it, you learn more. So I forget what the percentages are, but when you teach somebody something, you learn it the best, and so that's kind of the idea, right? So they're learning it together, and the emphasis is on understanding. And so we're not just kind of regurgitating what the teacher just told us, but we really need to kind of show that we know what we're doing and why and how and how all that's working. And then 2 of our math teachers, so Mr. Koss, you'll see on the left, and he does our math club, and then Miss Buckley she's not in the picture, but on the right, she does our stock market club. So it's super cute, yeah, they have the money, for the stock market club, it's an interactive online game, so students get $100,000 to invest virtually, and then they choose their investments, and then they go through the process, week by week to see what's happening with their investments and what do they want to do this week. And so it's a pretty cool process, and it's cool that it's all online, and so it's real world. And I remember doing this when I taught years ago, and we'd get newspapers, and they'd get the Boston Globe, and they'd send it to you every week, and you'd get it out, and then the kids would have to go through it and cut things out. And so this is same idea, but a little bit more progressive than when I was teaching 300 years ago, and we had to do it that way.
Did you know that that's competitive in the state?
What's that?
They're competing with other kids in the state on that. Did you know?
I don't know if she has any that do it week to week that do that, but I can find out.
Yeah, no, they do. Yeah, I know the number 10 kid, and he tells me every week.
Number 10 kid. And so he's competing, and
that they do it for the state, yeah. I didn't realize it was a statewide thing.
I did not either. That's awesome.
Pretty
Thank
cool.
you for sharing. And so that's our math.
Do you want to mention financial literacy with the experience coming up?
You're gonna have
With the
to.
bank coming in with the young ladies.
Oh, yeah, sure. I was like, gotta be more than that. So we partnered with, oh boy, I'm gonna forget who it was. See, I need to prepare for
Sorry.
these things. It's
Threw you.
okay. Threw me a loop, but I can give you the basics. So it's goodness gracious, it's the Women's Initiative from somewhere, and I'll think of it. But anyways, they are coming in January and then again in March. And it's a women's initiative, so they're only going to be presenting to our girls, but we're going to have our 8th grade girls go. One team is going to, I think it's the green team, going in January, and the rest will go in March. And they're going to do kind of a process with the students, talking all about financial literacy, and they have all these little games and things like that. And so it's similar, like the way I think of it is it's kind of like they ask people from the community for volunteers to come and do this. And so it's like and see, now I'm gonna have to go look it up. And I will
We'll
look
get
it up
more
and give you more
information for you.
information because I wasn't prepared to talk about it. I'm just trying to think of like, I'm visualizing the flyer she sent me, and it's still just not coming. It's also really late, and I've been up a long time. 'cause
I'm sorry, I didn't
it's
mean to
okay.
throw you off
Yes,
there.
you did.
All right, financial
Anyways,
literacy
but it's
news, we'll
pretty
get
cool.
it to you.
Well, it's pretty neat. We didn't even talk about like the half day stuff that we do.
No, I
That's
know.
okay. Shoot.
You get time to rework it.
All right.
All right,
We'll be back
GMS
next week.
athletics. You may need to bring us back. Sorry, we're going. GMS
Told you we're
athletics.
gonna brag.
For a middle school, we've got a great series of offerings, from our fall, winter, and spring sports. The biggest additions that we have are related to the unified athletics at the middle level. Over the past couple of years, members of GMS participated in unified spring track, which is a high school activity, and this year we had a number of students participate in unified basketball at high school to help fill out the roster. In the fall, we started up with unified bocce, which partnered up our student partners with our athletes. Had a great time on the indoor bocce court. And tomorrow we begin unified strength and conditioning. We've got about 30 students signed up to participate in that experience, and I get to work out at the end of the day with them, so it's a good thing. But we're really looking at continuing to expand the unified offerings and become a unified champion school at the middle level. So maybe looking for potentially members of the committee or district admin to participate in the mobile dunk tank that Special Olympics has. They bring it to our site as a fundraiser for some unified athletics opportunities. We've had some great experiences this year. Our girls cross-country team was undefeated and were the Swickle champs. Our boys finished in second place in the Swickle. The girls basketball team, this slide is incorrect. It should be 8-0 after the defeat of Tantascwa today, and the boys are now 7-0-1 after their defeat of Tantascwa on the home court today. I was pretty proud to be taking care of the book and the stats for them. The girls soccer team went undefeated in the Swickle and ended their season overall at 9-3. And we've had new uniforms because of some great funding support for multiple teams this year, which is really nice to see. Very supportive.
Right, we've talked
Speaking
a
of
little,
support.
we've talked a little bit about the student support team, and we've talked, I could literally, we could spend 2 hours just talking about our student support team, but I will make it super brief because I know we're getting late here. So in short, we meet the admin team. So Chris and I meet with each team monthly, and we also meet with our counseling team monthly. And we try to have a proactive approach as far as we're looking at, we look at data and look at, what do we need to look at, right? So who are the students that are coming to the surface for whatever reason, whether it be academic issues, behavioral issues. This is where we talk about our, students with attendance, what's going on social emotionally, what kiddos need our support one way or another, and then, what's happening in the families. And so we meet regularly to go through that, and then we take a holistic approach. So then we're, okay, so if this is the problem, then what are we gonna do, right? So we don't just wanna drone on what all the issues are, but how are we gonna fix it? And who's gonna take the lead on that, right? So, okay, Mr. Starr, can you take the lead on this? Sure. So I'm going to reach out to the family, and I'm going to this, and I'm going to that, and then I'm going to follow through. And so then we keep running notes, and then we meet again. And we meet more often if we need to. Most specifically is we meet more often with the counseling team and the special education team, because that, we have the access to do that. It's a little harder with the teachers because they obviously have a full day every day. And so we have to schedule those meetings in. But when needed, we certainly certainly meet with them more often. And so it's really, it's something that started well before I got there, but it's just kind of more fine-tuned with our larger counseling department. It's been really great because, Mrs. Morazzo can, if it's a student issue that, they're having trouble with homework and this and that, then she can pull that. If it's somebody that's having issues, conflict, peer conflict, okay, Miss Gasper might be able to take that one. Oh, it's it's a kiddo that, is really struggling, social emotional, and they need some, extra support, and that, okay, Mr. Kissel can take that one. So we can really kind of disseminate, and so, everybody is getting what they need because we have that support, which has been really great. I could keep going, but I'll stop.
So, lastly, I just wanted to make mention of the Applied Learning Leadership Discovery Grant that Grafton Middle School was awarded. Applied learning is the focus of this grant, and the funding is going to allow a team from the middle school to be able to visit local schools within the state or southern New England area, and one school that the 1-8 Foundation is going to be partnering us with somewhere in the country. I'm kind of hoping Denver, because I've never been. But the grant will allow for all that travel associated with this team. And we're going to be going out looking at our essential question, which hasn't been defined yet. The visits will help define that. But essentially, it's going to provide us a statement. In 5 years, Grafton Middle School will be, and it's going to really help us with our strategic vision. Applied learning, according to the 1-8 Foundation, I'm going to go ahead and read this statement. Applied learning inspires students with an innovative, engaging way to approach core and elective subject matter. Through collaboration and iteration, learners apply knowledge to discover the answers to real-world questions, developing lasting comprehension by learning how to solve complex problems and why what they learn is relevant in everyday life. Right? We already have elements of applied learning at Grafton Middle School. We're kind of ahead of the curve because the next statement is using proven programs and approaches, applied learning serves as the next instructional leap in education, right? We've got our Project Lead the Way programs in place. Thank you to the work of Jen Mannion, and members of our team, other members of our team to bring that in. We adopted a mathematics curriculum that really focuses on applied learning principles. We've adopted a Wit and Wisdom ELA program, which really stresses a lot of higher level engagement with text, allows us to bring in various, one thing that I think we didn't mention was
There's a million
the
things
use
to
of
do.
graphic novels and different related materials, so all students in 7th and 8th grade are reading the same text. So when we're all approaching learning from the same direction. We're looking at the potential for adoption of DKP, the Democratic Knowledge Project, which is applied learning principles and practices. So from these site visits and coming back with this team to be able to talk with our overall school, what are the next steps in teaching and learning at Grafton Middle? We're going to continue to write the book. It's evolving to what teaching and learning can really become. So that's the focus of our next work, and that's the end of our presentation.
Great presentation, very thorough.
We're going to assume you don't have questions because you want to go home. No, I'm just kidding.
I got a couple of other agenda items.
Yeah,
Just a
we do have a
couple.
few, but if any members of the committee have questions.
Please.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And this is not specific to the middle school, but you guys have so many beautiful clubs, and I always wonder / worry about, they're after school, and so do students have a hard time going? How about transportation home? Obviously, we can't provide any more transportation because we are all tapped out when it comes to transportation, but I was just wondering how you see that as an issue, if it's a big issue, and, are there any workarounds to help students with that?
Yeah, the census and the activities is, I think it's pretty reasonable, depending on the club and the type of interest that there is. We may have some things that are running that have 5 kids and other things that have 25. I see a lot of kids that get picked up by, I assume, grandmas and grandpas, aunts and uncles. A lot of times there's a lot of carpooling. Kids who are within walking distance, a lot of kids do walk off campus, at the conclusion of the activity. I do believe, you know, I know it's a funding conversation, but, you know, yeah, a late bus would be wonderful.
Be awesome. I agree. But
It would allow our caregivers not to worry about that and be able to have potentially higher levels of participation. But the census is pretty reasonable based on my experience.
They seem pretty well attended.
It was an impossible question too, so,
It's
but
okay.
thank you.
I have utilized the Star Bus to transport kids after school as well. You know,
Perfect.
if the kid's in a pinch, with parent approval, I will fire up the bus.
Thank you for
It's
asking.
actually a truck.
Thank you both. A lot, the joy for what you do comes through in your presentation. It's wonderful to see you both, and it's been really great to hear about the growth of the middle school for the past couple years. As Amy said, this is very thorough. So I had a question about working with the high school and bridging the gap. I know that they've been kind of sending students down. How are you working with the administration to kind of make sure students are ready and communication in that way? And are there any kind of, I know we've been doing some sports together. For instance, I know there's some field hockey went up, right, to the high school and things like that. How are you working together that way? And also probably same question with sixth grade as well. So just those transitions.
Yeah, I mean, I can start with the high school connection and the academics. Through Jen Mannion's team, you know, Paige Cooper and Jenny DeRost, our humanities coordinator, and our literacy coordinator, our mathematics and science coordinator, we're looking at curriculum connections, really having deep conversations with 9th and 10th grade math, for example, and looking at our 8th and 7th grade mathematics. Similarly, down to Jenny and Paige's elementary counterparts, they're having those conversations, and our 7th grade teachers are talking to 6 to make sure that we're on the same page academically. You know, the transition to the high school, we just had, I don't know if it was something that was brought back, but we did team-based tours at the high school to go ahead and see, tour the building, but also hear about showcased programs and academic offerings at the high school, as well as clubs and activities. So our students can be better prepared for what to expect as they're entering into course selection. And then, you know, down to the L's, we're actually talking about what to do for our transition towards the end of this year, beyond just our step-up day. I've asked our members of our special ed team, you know, as an example, to really talk about what they feel they need done in March and April for the transition. What should we be doing in terms of visiting the elementary schools to understand more about our student population, their needs, the settings, so that way we can adapt and adjust. You know, and then, you know, when I was down at a training last week for safety care down at Millbury Street School, who's the weird loud guy in the hallway? A lot of 6th graders are saying. I'm like, hey guys, I'm Mr. Starr, I'm your middle school principal. Letting them know who I am, who we are, what we're about, being able to start, you know, really promoting the GMS brand with our L's, sorry, elementary schools. I call them L's.
Yeah, because I was just, sorry, Christy, do you mind if I just the observation I was thinking earlier today, because I was thinking about you, and I was like, you know, now you've been through a full cycle, there's only 2 years, you have a short amount of time to really work with these kids, get to know these students, so it's kind of, it's great to hear that you're going to the L's to get to know them a little bit earlier, and just kind of, it's when you're saying we know these students really well, that's so important, you have to do it very quickly, they're in and out, really, but it's such an important part of their lives. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Quick question. So I know that you're team-based, green team, white team, that's been since I was in middle school in Grafton. A lot of parents worry of what that means. Can you touch on what that is? I know that I've gotten worried questions from parents of, oh no, my kid's on the white team, or oh no, my kid's on the green team. Can you explain that doesn't really mean like anything other than, okay.
It's just so, so a team of teachers is just a math, science, social studies, ELA, and then world language, And then typically there's a special education teacher, and the 6 teachers work together with the same group of kids. So they are, let's say, 120 or 140 kids. Those 140 kids have the same 6 teachers. And then the other 140 kids have the other 6 teachers. But as far as leveling and all that kind of thing, it doesn't matter. So if you're, if your student's taking algebra, they could be on either team, because both math teachers can teach algebra. So it's really,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with anything, but like,
Right, no,
kinda
I
give
know,
them-
I just want other people to understand that it means nothing.
yeah, no, there's a lot that goes into scheduling in the spring and summer, and so we try to keep the teams as, literally as equal as possible. Like, we even go through like how many boys and how many girls are on each team, and
How many students from North Street? How many students from Millbury Street? How many new kids from over the summer? How many students, had problems with this many number of students in 7th grade when we placed them on 8th grade? And,
the only thing that I can think of that would ever dictate what team you're on might be French versus Spanish, because French can only be offered so many periods, because we only have, right now I believe we have 2 7th grade and 2 8th grade French classes, right? So there's only 2 periods per day that you can take French class, right? So if the French teacher is teaching, say, period 1, but the green team has period 1 related arts, well, then they're most likely not going to be on that particular team if they're in French, because then that eliminates a whole period for them to take French. So those types of things might determine whether you're on one team or another. That's the only thing I can think of would be the French versus Spanish, because besides that, everything else is pretty equal along on the
Yeah, and
across
even
the
then,
board.
we've in some cases crossed-teamed students in
Yeah.
those singleton sections, such as French. So students from the 8 white and the 8 green team are in the same French class, and just it works out that way.
And sometimes that happens too with Miss Hernandez, because she teaches some 7th and some 8th.
Yeah.
And she's got a couple of classes where there are 8th graders in the 7th grade Spanish class because they didn't take Spanish 1, whether they moved in 8th grade and never had it in 7th grade because they weren't here or whatever. So many different scenarios. But in general, no, you're not wrong. Like, there really isn't a rhyme or reason. I know there's probably rumors that if you're on this team, then that, and if you're on that team, then this, but probably not the case. And if parents are wondering, they can certainly reach out, for sure.
Anyone else?
Great presentation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was
Look
really,
forward
we
to-
asked the teachers to brag,
Yeah,
and
great.
there it is.
Look forward to the attendance. Good luck with that. I know what a problem that is, the attendance
Yeah.
data.
I'm sure that will be a never-ending battle, but, we try to reach each student separately and let them know we care about them and we want them in our building and we want to
it.
help them, so hopefully it works.
All right,
Okay,
well,
thank you very
again.
much.
Thank you.
Stay
Thanks,
warm.
gang. Yeah.
Good luck with the dance this weekend.
Oh, it's so fun.
Stop by, 6 to 8.
No,
Always use additional
I
chaperones.
know that there is not a student in your building that wants to see me at that dance, so
Hey, you
we're
never
just
know.
not gonna know.
Put you in a dark corner.
I love a middle school.
My own children didn't put
Did they
me there.
play Stairway to Heaven at the end of the night?
Well, I'm not going to date myself. I was going to say it's actually Open Arms, My Journey.
Moni Moni by Billy Idol.
First time I heard that was a middle school dance. All right,
Same.
let's go.
Thank you.
Fiscal year 26 budget update,
Yeah.
which I know is
We're
gonna be
leaving at the
short.
funnest time.
Yep, it is. We are still waiting on the municipal side to kind of catch up with us in terms of the FY26 budget and beyond. I met with the town administrator a couple times last week to make sure we're coordinated with their efforts. The TA is presenting the budget to the select board tonight. That discussion should lead to us having a more approximate number for FY26. Thank you. We arranged, and I talked to Amy about the TA attending our next meeting on February 4th to give basically that same presentation with whatever feedback he receives. And then lastly, in the shared drive folder, I put the most updated budget book. Kathleen has been plugging along. Thank you for everybody's feedback on the book. She's been working on it and will continue to do so. She'll come on the 4th, and we'll go through the entire FY26 budget on our side after Evan does his thing.
Jay, has Amy, is that kind of a question? Has there been discussion about you going downstairs and presenting to the select board at all?
No. I'm sure that will come up, but until we have a better sense of our number, it's hard to actually put our materials together. But yeah, I'd assume that's on the horizon.
I know Evan's going to FinCom next Wednesday,
Okay.
so that might be something to pay attention to. All right, thank you, and please thank Kathleen for all of her ongoing, very important work.
Dr. Cummings, you had stated in an email that you'd be meeting with each one of us. Is that still happening to discuss?
Yes.
When will that be?
Hasn't yet, but you can look forward to that happening.
Superintendent report.
Just two things. We opened up the anonymous alert system. It's a new app-based system for reporting bullying, any other issues or concerns that students have. We started it up about a month ago at GMS. That went really well, and I think it was last week, maybe, we rolled it out at the high school, and so far, so good there. And then number two, we are going out to bid on our transportation contract this week, which is very exciting. Keep your fingers crossed.
What's the timeframe on that?
I think once we actually post, I forget how many weeks, I think they have 3 weeks. We have to have a meeting with anybody interested, go through the bid specs, and then they're given a certain amount of time. I think it's 4 weeks, but I can double check.
Is that it?
That's it.
Wow. Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes,
I have a question for the superintendent.
go ahead.
Dr. Cummings, I've noticed recently, well, since the first of the year, that Nicole McDonald has been CC'd on all of our emails from you. Is there any kind of change in central office that?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Is there a reason why?
I rely on her. We don't have an assistant superintendent, so I rely on all the directors. There are many topics that she's either connected to or helping me out with. Certainly Mandy goes well above and beyond your traditional HR director, and so does Nicole. So I utilize her quite a bit.
Anything else for Jay? Okay, future agenda items. Jay and I moved a couple things around, although I don't think those changes are here.
Student representative.
Did I skip? I'm sorry, I apologize. Student representative report, go ahead, I'm so sorry.
Semester 1 closed today, and semester 2 begins tomorrow. Individual class meetings, sorry.
Done.
Individual class meetings for grades 9 through 11 with guidance and administration to review the program of studies. Grade 9 will meet Wednesday, February 5th during extended. Grade 10, Thursday, February 6th during extended, and grade 11, Friday, February 7th during extended. DECA districts was January 9th, with 24 of our students advancing to state competition in early March. The last day to buy yearbooks is Friday, January 24th. Student ambassadors ran guided tours on January 10th and 17th, introducing all 8th grade students to JHS and all it has to offer.
And then this Sunday, we have members of the special education classes and student council attending Unified Bocce. I believe it's in Marlboro. There's 3 dates. We did last year, and I think we have a bigger crowd this year, so that's exciting. And then we are beginning the prep for Mr. GHS. So the date for that is March 14th, and it's going to be at in the auditorium. So we'll meet and start the planning process. And then we have our senior class trip picked out. It's going to be to Brownstone Adventure Park in Connecticut. Very exciting. And then I also wanted to put a prom save the date in here. It's going to be on May 10th for anyone listening. I know there's a lot of prepping, dress buying in this month, so I can put that out there. And then lastly, I just have that the Student Council book drive is this month. I believe it's up until next Monday. I can double check that, but it's just going to be in the front of the Commons. If you have any old or unused books, they'll recycle them and put them to the Grafton Library. So,
That's all.
Thank you so much.
Anyone donate to that?
yes, I think you might be able to just
Come in,
bring it to the
walk
office. Yeah,
So many books.
awesome.
Good night.
Thank you very much. You're welcome to stay, and you're obviously also welcome to go.
Be careful.
Is it icy out?
I don't know, I made that up. I totally just made that up. I don't know why I said that. I was like,
be icy.
I was like, be careful, it's icy. And then I was like, shoot, I think I just
You're
lied.
not wrong though.
I think it is icy.
It is icy.
It's
icy.
It's
It's like
icy.
-6.
Okay.
Cold.
Future agenda items.
Thank you.
Not fake news. So I'm gonna go back to Jay for a quick second. I think the 25th still says budget hearing, and that's not right. The budget hearing is March 11th, which is why
in
there's a
both places.
6:45. What did I just write? I wrote CPAC for some reason on the 4th. What was it for?
On the 4th,
Yes.
Oh, did you want to add,
Just, what
coffee?
did I want to add?
did we want to add talking about
Discussing-
having a,
oh, yeah.
So it's not really,
Oh, yes.
it's not really something of import for this list, but as a note to myself, yes.
yes. having
CPAC
a
rep, thank you,
liaison
Leora.
rep, Yep.
And that is how bad my memory is. That was an hour ago. Um, So, and that's a relatively late meeting, although I do think there were other items that Jay and I had decided to put on that date, but I don't have it in front of me. I gave him my notes, so I'll touch base with him this week. We'll figure that out. And no, I still have not scheduled the high school student meetings. I am waiting for an email back, and then I will email all of you. That is at the very top, just finally gone to the very top of my to-do list. But with the semester change, I've been asked to hold off a little bit. The semester did change. The funny story for the audience, mostly, the kids were told today that the semester started today. There was a message that went out today that today was the first day of the new semester, which caused a little bit of chaos because that wasn't really true. But it was quickly corrected and everybody went to the right place. So it was just amusing. One day off, but it's very exciting as the students start their new, some of them will be starting new classes tomorrow, so that's fun.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
the reduction budget, are we going to get that on an agenda? That was supposed to be tonight. I know that was postponed.
Yeah, once we get, it could be as soon as the 4th, we need to have an actual number to know if we have to reduce, and if so, by how much.
yeah, I would assume that would go in with town budget. Same meeting. Yeah, great. Anything else? Okay, great. Approval of minutes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the committee approve the minutes of January 7th, 2025.
Second that motion.
Any comments, questions, concerns on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? There we go. There's no other minutes, so we'll go to financial report.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the committee accept warrants 27, 28, and 29.
I second.
Any discussion, comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, I believe. We all voted yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Quarterly FY25 report.
Yep, so Kathleen put together the snapshot that is in your book and in the drive folder. We are in, as of right now, we're in very good shape in terms of landing FY25 within budget. The next few months are definitely going to be challenging. We've got to just keep an eye on special ed costs, the normal changes, et cetera. Right now, we don't have a plan to freeze the budget, but if things are tight, that's what we'll do.
Go ahead, Christy.
Dr. Cummings, I have a couple of questions. First, when I look at the teacher salary line, if you could explain that to me, it appears we've only spent 35% of that budget.
I can get you the answer. I'd rather not just take a stab at it.
Yeah, because as of right now, it's showing that we've spent 8.5 million out of a $24 million budget, which, I mean, if that trend were to continue, you would have quite a savings.
Yeah, that won't continue. I can guarantee you that, but I can definitely speak to the logistics of that. I'll get that from Kathleen and provide it and speak to it at the next meeting as well.
And then, in addition to that, I've emailed Kathleen, but I didn't hear back. The total amounts that are showing for your Q2 operations, both as the Q2 and as the balance, those numbers are not supporting the data that's above it.
Okay? I will follow up your email with a question to her tomorrow.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. We'll move on to policy.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Like to present policy CHCB faculty and staff handbooks as a second reading.
Second.
You'll notice we had brought this a while ago and then held off until we actually had faculty and staff handbooks. We're bringing it back now. There's a small change. It's in pink. We wanted to make sure that that people knew that hard copies could be available upon request if they weren't able to access it electronically, and that's a change from what you've seen before.
I believe it used to say electronically and hard copy, and I think we decided everything's electronic, but hard copies can be available. That's the change there.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I just have a comment on this. So this policy had been brought in July, and when it was brought, I had actually voted against it, and I had stated, and I thought that we were going to look into it further, that this policy is actually encompassed in our new CHA one, and in our CHCA rather, it states committee approval will be necessary for any handbooks that pertain to required standards of conduct for both employees and students. I don't know if it's really necessary that we have this policy.
I agree.
And that's what Dr. Cummings had actually recommended on the July note that he had made to the whole committee. Personally, I would recommend we eliminate it.
Madam Chair, the MASC doesn't have this policy. I actually agree. I had forgotten because Christy's memory is freaking amazing. Mine is also just gone, so I really had, and didn't go back and look, so I have no recollection of that. But we did discuss in our meeting, our policy subcommittee meeting, but obviously open to suggestions, but I don't think this is a necessary policy. MAC doesn't have one either. But we brought it back because we said we would.
Yeah, there's not even a code for it under NACN reporting system, so.
Does CHA talk about,
We can bring back CH.
CHA does.
CHCA.
CHCA, approval of handbooks and directives. It's just overall. for
Yeah,
any handbooks.
it pertains to both.
can I ask my question?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
My question is, does it talk about online versus paper copy? Because that might be something to add, since the committee felt like that needed to be in there, that might need to be changed.
It doesn't specify either because it's more about approval, the committee having approval for them. It's not about the dissemination of them.
So I would submit that the purpose of the policy is different. And while it is not required by MASC, the purpose of this policy is in fact how they are distributed. That the district is going to maintain and distribute faculty and staff handbooks. That is a different purpose. And it talks about how they're being distributed. That they'll also be distributed annually to the school committee. So if it's saying something different, then either it all goes back to policy subcommittee for review, or we adopt this tonight and we fix it in the future. It's the committee's pleasure. But to me, they're a different purpose.
I
Sorry.
don't disagree with you, Madam Chair. I would say I do think they're slightly different.
Madam Chair, I would suggest then bringing back CHCA, just as we're doing later on, how we're combining two policies together. Our purpose is not to have infinite number of policies that state very similar things with one line different. It's up to this committee's policy.
We can certainly look at it. I think, this to me is, I mean, Amy, and we discussed this too. I think Leora and I had this discussion where I was on kind of one side, you were on the other. I don't have passion for this one. I think this kind of just states that we have a faculty and staff handbook, which we never had before, now we do. So to me, it's like we're stating that we have a faculty handbook. So, I mean, we're happy to. It's just been lingering. I know there was concern that we hadn't brought it back yet, so I don't have a strong opinion. So Leora, whatever you want to do. Happy to bring back whatever policy people want.
I mean, I think it's two different, it is two different ideas. We could, if we wanted to, incorporate CHCB into CHCA, but again, I want to move away from mishmashing things.
Frankenstein.
Yes, so, I don't see the downside of having this policy. But,
Well, the choices are, we do an up or down vote on it,
Yep.
or we table it and let the policy subcommittee go back and figure out what to do.
there is that motion on the table, so
Yeah.
it should either be rescinded or we should vote on it. Do you want to discuss further, or just vote and see where we land?
Well, I made the motion. It's out there. We can vote yes or no.
Okay.
I don't know.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving this as a second reading? That's 4. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Okay, motion carries.
Cool, thanks. Leora, you want to take the next one? Or not?
Sure, happy to take the next one. Madam Chair, I move that the committee accept EHAA, District Security Relating to Technology, as a second reading.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, any
It's a
discussion?
popular one.
Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Sorry, I just need to make sure I get my notes down now, or. Okay, Madam Chair, I would like to present, policy KDCB district website and social media as a first reading. If you recall, back in December, we had brought this, but it didn't have our changes in it. So now you'll see that, we worked as a, committee, along with Mandy as well, thank you, to add just, some additional language. Our concern for this was.
Can I just pause you real quick? Can I get a second on the motion?
Second.
All right, there we go. You're fine. Go.
I'm so
Keep
sorry.
talking. No, keep talking. You're good.
No, it was the one before.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Go for
Very
it.
I'm very excited about this. I just want to explain our thinking. So this policy, basically, from MASC, it says unauthorized use of district or school name is prohibited. We understand where that's coming from, but then we were thinking about kids who use where does GHS prom, or, and we know that those aren't officially sanctioned from the school, but we didn't want to just be like, it's prohibited, you can never, we're really kind of infringing on our students. But then we wanted to make sure that it just wasn't people like doing spoof accounts or really awful things, or, there's so much gray area that can happen. So this was something that we wanted to just go ahead and make sure that people got authorization. We've also had some miscommunication in the past where people thought this was a school-run account, and maybe their college wasn't named, or something, like they didn't like the picture or something, and people were rightfully upset. So we want to make sure that, hey, this isn't from Grafton Schools, but I don't think we can just be like, hey, you can't use our district or school name. First of all, who's policing that? So this was, these were our recommendations on that, and that was why we put that in. It was mostly for kind of those, thinking about those student runs. Am I missing something?
Nope,
Leora?
that was exactly the thinking. It was
That was
just,
a while ago.
we wanted to allow for that while giving them guidelines for how to make it clear it wasn't a school account.
But we're also hoping they work with administration and just to give a heads up. And it is we see it mostly at the high school level, but with the prom and the where's GHS going and all those
The
things.
theater group, like some of the clubs
Theater.
have.
Yeah, clubs.
They have their official club thing, and then
Yep.
they have their unofficial club thing.
Right.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Instagram takeovers and whatnot.
Exactly,
But
but
you
it's-
can't do that on a school account.
Right,
Yeah, I get it.
exactly. So we just thought this, the way it was written was a little too restrictive for really how people are using social media.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see that, that restriction. I
Yep.
felt it was, I mean, I understand what
Yeah, me
the
too.
purpose, and I understand,
Right,
wanting to
you
be
don't-
sure that the name is being used appropriately, but it is true that, the center of students' lives is their school. And at least, for a lot of our kids, and, it's stunting their ability to share information when they can't at least allude to the fact that they attend Grafton High School or Grafton Middle School or, whatever. So I agree with that. I think it's nice. Well done. Any other comments, questions,
The
thoughts?
only other thing I would say is I know that this one references BEDH, which needs to be brought back, I believe, as well. So we are aware of that.
Oh, I didn't even scroll down that far. Okay, yeah, I do see that.
Yep. So that is on the subcommittee's radar. The BEDH one needs, I think, a review.
Madam Chair,
Christie.
I just want to be aware that this policy, when we implement this, directly affects that Grafton Ask Questions and Answers Facebook page that the school
Yep.
that is currently held by the district. Because on this, it says, commenting on all school and district and school sites will be turned off. Every school district site will clearly indicate a policy that will direct those wishing to contact the school and district personnel to the appropriate venue to do so. And when I've been in on those MASC luncheons, they've really heavily discouraged that kind of Facebook public questioning. You get into the weeds of
A lot of weeds.
session and because if you like it and I like it and she likes it, and then it becomes very weedy and what can be asked. And sometimes comments are on and sometimes comments are off, and
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Kinda make
I've
the-
been in on those as well.
They
But
want more.
I would rather err on the side of being accessible to the community in a way where we're where parents and guardians are, as opposed to saying our pat answer is come to a school committee meeting. Because they're not gonna come, and they're not gonna send an email. Some people are just, they're gonna post on social media, that's where they're at. And so my personal feeling is that a lot of that cautionary tale stuff borders on fear-mongering, but it's because of, it's messy. It's lawyers, and it's messy, and they don't like it, and I get it, I do. But given how successful I feel it's been, it's up to the district. If the district doesn't want to have it, then the district can shut it down.
well, Madam Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
then I recommend adjusting the policy.
Striking that.
Because if either we're going to adhere to the policy or we're not going to keep that.
So you had,
Hold on. Let's just take a breath for a minute. This is a new policy,
Right.
so we haven't had a chance to not adhere to it yet.
No, that's not what I'm saying, Madam Chair. I'm saying that if it is the pleasure of the board that we don't believe in that, then maybe it should be taken back and reworded to what our actual practice would be.
I have a question.
Yeah,
about
please, because
how it
I'm
works.
confused. Go ahead.
I understand what she's saying.
All right, good.
But it is my understanding that people can pose a question on that page. Jay is the only one who answers it, and then comments are shut down when there's an answer. So I actually think we are sort of adhering to it. It's not like we allow a debate underneath the question. Jay answers, we end it.
That is operationally what should be happening.
Right.
But it doesn't always happen. Sometimes the comments get left on by mistake, or maybe
Right.
because Dr. Cummings doesn't know how to shut them off. I don't know.
Or he's a
But,
busy guy.
but, you know, I do think that maybe that needs to be adhered to a little bit better. The pushback we get on that is often, well, you're stifling discussion. This isn't a discussion forum, this is a question and answer. And it's done in the public view so that everybody who has that question can see the answer. That is how my understanding has been. And like I said, it belongs to the district. If they decide these guys decide they don't want to do it anymore,
Then
they can just delete it tomorrow.
Right.
But I don't know that the policy, the wording of the policy contradicts what we're doing. So maybe,
I see where she's coming, where.
can you help me understand?
Yeah.
Because I don't.
Where
I don't
it
see
says commenting on all district and school sites will be
Will be
turned
turned
off.
off. So
Asking a question is technically
is
commenting.
comment.
Commenting.
I see the point.
Yep, I
Oh.
Yep.
It does
It does
kind of
state that.
imply
Yep.
that we can't
That
have
it's
a
a push-out
district
page.
Whereas I took it literally.
Right, it's,
Right.
To me, that means commenting, as
Correct.
in posting a comment, not asking
Not
a question.
Right.
Right.
And
So
so
we're splitting, okay, I
could
get it.
we,
I
could-
understand.
and so that's what I was saying. I hear what Christy's saying, but could we interpret it that people can ask questions, we answer them, we shut off the comments?
That was what I thought it said, honestly, that's
Yeah.
what I
Right.
thought it
I
said.
have some thoughts, so
Yeah.
I agree. So this is the first reading. We'll noodle on it, and Christy, if you have thoughts, send them.
Yeah, send them
Okay.
over.
But I have
yeah.
a thought that it's kind of like back and forth or something like we can put
right,
in
like,
some
there could
wording,
be
yeah.
just
Yeah, yeah.
something to clean it
Yeah.
up, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To make it
I get that.
Okay,
with-
I
Nobody's
totally
gonna
did-
come
I
to
was-
us with a debate on
I
this.
I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, I hear it.
Isn't language fun?
That's
Because again, I'm thinking it says school and district sites, right? Which to me, I jumped immediately to Facebook because that's the only thing that we have as a district, correct?
Yeah.
That's it. We don't have a district Instagram or a district.
Jay's out there
No, but each
God, I
TikToking.
hope
Be tweeting out there.
school has their own.
You don't
the
follow-
district
Has their
is
own
a-
website.
Yeah.
Each school has their own
No, on
Facebook page.
yeah,
Yeah.
they
They don't
do.
shut comments off
And
on
people
that.
people comment on them.
Right.
Right, so,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, and a lot of them are,
All
you know,
right,
it's
I
like
understand what you're saying now.
showing
Okay, I
art or
apologize.
something.
I
They're like, oh, I love
misunderstood.
that.
I agree that that's something that needs to be discussed, but I guess yeah, go ahead, discuss it.
We'll discuss.
Well,
We'll discuss.
yeah.
I'll
I mean,
send-
bring it back.
Can
if
I
you
send
guys have-
thoughts?
Absolutely, send thoughts to.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why. I hate to say it again. That's why we bring it to
No, I
first
get it.
reading. Love the
Right.
comments, feedback. That's a
Yeah,
great
exactly.
Thought. That's
No, it makes sense.
awesome. More minds
Requirements for
make.
public
And now that
communication.
we've talked through it, I kind of forgot about each school's page and, yeah.
Messy.
I mean, does the
also-
PTG pages count as a school page?
No,
I don't know.
'cause they're
No,
separate
right, 'cause they're,
entities.
Yeah, right, okay.
And therefore neither does CPAC.
No, it would not, because they're an advisory,
There's
right,
also
it's not a
the-
district page.
All right,
It's tricky.
Okay, so
Okay.
we have
cool.
not accepted this as a first meeting,
Well,
we're bringing it back.
I think
are
we could, well, what is the committee's pleasure? The
Yeah, I
motion
would
is on the table.
Yeah,
It's a
Take
first
it up
read.
first
It's a
read.
reading.
Accept it as a
Yeah.
first reading.
Yeah,
Go
okay.
back. All right, so is there any other comments, questions, discussion on the policy?
no. but we-
Seeing none. We'll move to vote. All those in favor? Great. Thank you, everybody. Good talk.
Good talk. Good talk. Madam Chair. Laura?
Yes.
Oh, Laura, it's your turn.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay, I'd like to
Please.
present KF, Community Use of School Facilities, as a first reading.
I second that.
Did you finish the word reading?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
She just said
Motion
read.
made and
She
seconded.
She said read.
So,
Okay.
I'd also like to ask Dr., he doesn't know, Dr. Cummings to please, because you kind of combined,
Yep, I did.
and I just would love for you to please.
Yeah, it was
Not wrong.
fairly straightforward. You can see KF and KFR behind the combined one. My thought was going into, they both, again, going back to what Christy mentioned earlier, having an abundance of policy and having two policies that, when I read through them and was working to modify them, it seemed like, in my mind, it made sense to merge them into one. I did that just as an example to be used for the policy subcommittee, and it was modified a little bit. It's before you.
Do we need to have two separate votes?
Well, we have another vote that will ask you to delete the
Okay,
following
got
policy.
it. Thank you.
Which honestly, I thought was pretty smart of us to actually figure that out on our own.
Nice work.
Thanks.
You did it.
Thank you.
My favorite edit is the removal of number 6, permission for the possession and sale of alcoholic beverages,
I noticed that one.
which I'm pretty sure is against state law. Sure. So why on earth was it in there?
It's pretty entertaining, actually.
Any comments, questions, concerns? Christie?
Yeah, so while we're speaking on this policy, the KF-R, we would be remiss not to bring back, we had in our policy book what was once our fee schedule. It was under KF-R. MASC recommends that you place that in the book and place it under KG-E. Reason being is that the school committee is supposed to own the fee schedule. We set it, we maintain it.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, or Leora, do you want to take? So I totally, so we had big discussions, and I think I agree that, yes, I agree. And I don't really believe it goes in I don't understand why the fee structure is a policy. So to me, it's like a policy is saying we will have fees. Then the fee structure, we do maintain, yes, but I feel like it shouldn't be like deep in a policy. I mean, it can be in 2 places also, but I don't understand MASC's logic on that, and I don't agree with it. So
I agree. It's like more fluid than
it's so
a
weird,
policy
like,
should be.
because we're supposed to view it yearly, which we can. We should build in fee schedule into our plan. But I don't know if it's policy subcommittee coming up with fees. That's like a financial decision. It's all these different things. So I understand that that's what they recommend. I guess another time, I kind of disagree with that. It would be in a policy book. So we didn't include it in this. We did ask Jay to look, we looked at the fees, but I was like, why are we sitting here coming up with fees? That's not I don't believe that's my subcommittee role. That's the committee's role.
The committee's role, right.
So that was like why we didn't bring it, Christy. And I knew you were gonna, I knew you were gonna ask the question because you've asked that, and it's a great question. So I guess that was our thoughts, and I'm again like, if we want to keep it in there, that's fine. We want it multiple places, that's fine. But then it's just remembering to make sure we update it multiple places. And who is going to the policy packet to look at the fee schedule? Like, that is weird.
And I felt
We could link
that
to it.
we address it by saying that 2 things. We addressed 2 of the issues. One, we say that the fee schedule will be recommended by the superintendent and approved by the school committee. It's here in this policy, so I think that's addressed. And we call out the fee schedule and where it's available in the policy. I think linking it might be a great idea to also kind of have it in spirit included, but yeah, it just doesn't feel appropriate in the policy handbook. I know that's the recommendation, but, we're not including permission slips. To me, it falls in that category. So I feel like we've addressed it in multiple ways.
Madam Chair, I don't want to presume that I know what MASC is thinking. The only thing I can think of is that the reason they would want it in the book is to remind us to review it. Whereas if it's nowhere, but if we do link it, that's one thing, right? But if it's nowhere, how would we regularly be reminded?
I hadn't thought about that.
And then, sorry, one more thing, Madam Chair.
No, I want to answer your question.
Okay.
So the thought that I had was, we, like many school committees, but not all, maintain an agenda list. We have items that carry over from year to year, and that could just be another one of them. And that list has grown and shrunk in my time on this committee. I've seen it evolve. Jay and I talked about that, and he thought that was a great idea. So if we put it in the fee, I made a note to myself again, fee schedule. Once the operations folks, I believe we when I discussed that they would do a little research and try to figure out towards the end of the year if we're on par with area communities. Remember that discussion?
Yeah. so
What their recommendations
Whenever it
would be.
came before the committee, I'd expect that the committee would ask me to
Yes.
work with others, get some area
So
comparisons.
once we're through the budget situation, then we would put it in, we'd slot it in towards the end of the
Sure.
year. And then that would be a working document that the committee would have all the time. But go ahead.
Madam Chair, just so that we're all on the same page, we had the fee schedule. We also had the application for facilities use. We never deleted those. We should really, if we're not going to be holding them, we then need to delete them,
Yep, I agree.
and they have to get brought back. So that was the KF-R from our old manual and
Okay.
KF-E1 from our old manual.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring those for deletion next time.
Oh, we have KFR for deletion tonight, right?
No, it's a
Or we
different
don't?
one.
It's a different one.
different
Oh,
one.
the other one, yeah,
it-
right.
it was
Yeah,
the-
yeah,
it was
the
a
old
coding
ones. Yep,
one.
yep.
We got halfway there.
I also like the idea of having the link though, because then it's
Yeah,
like,
the
okay,
link
we
is-
change it there,
and then
but
it's all
we don't
linked.
have to,
Right.
we don't have to remember
Yeah, I like the link
other
idea too.
places.
The only thing I would say about the link, and I don't disagree, because I love hyperlinks,
I love me
is
some
that
links.
every time our website changes, those links break.
Links break.
Like right now, if you click on activities on the high school website, you get the theater page. Like that still hasn't been fixed. And I get it. If there's a lot going on in the tech department, they don't have time to address all the website issues. So I would prefer that where it says Grafton Public Schools webpage, first of all, I'd like it to say website, because I think webpage sounds like 1998. That should just be a link to the Grafton Public Schools. Boom, done. You can navigate from there.
Yep, you can find it.
Because it's fairly obvious how you get to facilities from that location.
And you could
that
even
way-
say something like, go to the facilities section on the Grafton website.
I don't necessarily want to get that prescriptive either, because they could literally change that
That's
tomorrow,
true.
and now we're right back
Right.
here.
Yep.
So
That's fair.
I like to think of policy as being, prescriptive, but not overly prescriptive. Here's the website.
Yep.
You can even search for it if you want. Google is your friend. Ask an AI on your phone. There's a million
Fourth
ways.
grader.
But I
Right.
do like the idea of combining them all into one policy. I think that's great. You guys did a good job. Any other comments, questions? Again, this is a first reading.
First reading.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll clean up all this highlighted, not nonsense. Edit, and things like that.
Bring it back
And then
clean.
we'll bring up the other ones we're missing and, yeah. Cool.
So this first motion is just
For KF.
for KF. Okay,
The
all
new-
those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Motion carries. That is all done.
Madam,
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I'd like to propose the committee approve deleting KF-R.
Sec-
Yeah.
Second that.
Dumb question.
Yeah.
We delete this,
We've
it's
combined-
gone.
We've taken
And
everything
then
relevant.
we have
we
to
can wait.
do the second reading of the first policy. So do we wait a
Good
week?
point. Yep.
We can delete it and I'll just wait to hold off.
Oh, that's
It's
good.
not like I'm the
I like that.
quickest. Not like I'm the quickest.
Well, and they're not the most responsive either.
I mean, it'll take time, but that's a very good point. We
All
shouldn't
right, so
delete
we'll-
it. We
okay.
shouldn't delete it till we edit the other one.
Why don't we approve it for deletion
Until,
until
we just put a
Yeah.
date.
Okay,
next month?
great thinking.
All right.
I love you guys.
I could just see something.
Did somebody second that?
I did.
Oh, you did?
Sure did.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor of removing the policy effective next month? Aye. Go. Excellent.
Okay. Madam
We
Chair,
don't have to vote on it ever again.
unless I forget. Bring it back just for,
No,
unless it comes
all
back.
done. One less thing you have to remember, right?
I I move to have IGND access to digital resources as a first reading.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Chair,
Wait, hold on. You gonna let her present it first? You gonna let her present it first?
Nope.
no, because it's a second reading.
Oh, is it?
We took a first reading on that on December 10th.
Yes,
Yeah.
But,
but we wanted to bring, well, yes, it can be either way. We brought it back as a first reading only because we realized that we liked, when we brought it back, it was a longer policy, and when we went and really looked at it again, we would like to replace it with MASC, and because it's such a different thing, we thought we'd bring it back for a first reading, but that's up to the committee.
oh.
But that's the thinking. This is
That was-
different
that
from
was our
what we
sole
did
draft.
as a
It's
first.
It's not like I've
reading.
never seen it before, so I'm fine with it being a first reading, but.
It is very
second
different.
rather.
I mean, I don't,
It's not like
But
I
if you
have-
want to do it as a second
wanted to-
reading.
I'd
I
love a
mean-
second reading, I mean.
It's up to the committee. I don't want to rush anybody, but I've definitely seen this before,
Okay.
so it's not new. We even talked about doing this at that meeting, I think.
We did, but it is different. I mean,
If
it's
it's-
significantly different.
It's, the motion is a first reading.
Madam Chair,
Is that what we want?
I'll amend my motion.
Well, don't amend it just yet. I'm looking at Rebecca.
That's fine with me.
That's fine
All
with
on
you.
you, Rebecca.
Okay. As
like
long
to
as
keep my
most of us
cards
are
close to
okay
my
with it being a
chest over
second
here.
reading, then we can amend it. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'd like to amend my motion to present policy IJND, access to digital resources, as a second reading.
Excellent.
Second reading.
Motion made and seconded. All concerns, questions, comments?
Hold on, can I just have 1 minute to?
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Sorry, so what we have currently in our book is not this one?
No.
Okay. Yeah, no, I see that. Okay, yeah, I'd take it as a second reading.
You what?
Yeah,
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Great. Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Great.
That was successful.
All right. So, right, are we done? No. JEB, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I'd like to recommend the committee accept JEB entrance age as a first reading.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
This has been updated to reflect our actual practice. It used to say before, it used to say only prior to September 1st, and we actually are a district that does on or before. So we've updated this to reflect current practice.
And?
And that's the change.
No,
No,
there's
there's
an
one more.
additional change.
Oh.
Laura.
Big blacked out
Yeah,
part.
yeah, sorry. And
Yeah.
the school's discretion piece was way too murky and bananas. So,
And just like unnecessary work for
Well, we had some
admin.
feedback from the elementary school principals that there just wasn't, I had kind of misremembered that for first grade, if we wanted to move somebody into first grade earlier, we have some practices, but for kindergarten, we don't have that, so. And so that was partly why we took that out. It was mostly from feedback from our elementary school principals.
Okay.
And the murkiness. Bananas.
and there's just no guidelines around it, right? It's
Right.
random.
It's also, I mean, it's inequitable, right? One principal decides they're gonna let in 4-year-olds and one says no, like,
Right. So what do I have to move to the other side of Grafton if I want my kid?
well, you know people will end up in Jay's office on that one.
Yes.
Madam Chair, as
Yes.
somebody who's ended up in Jay's office over this,
Tell us more.
I will tell you, I disagree wholeheartedly of removing that line. It goes against our other policy in regards to gifted education. Part of gifted education involves putting children where they belong academically, not necessarily chronologically. I think it's a big mistake. In addition to that, the on or before September 1st, while our practice is September 1st, why are we not moving along with what the state is doing? As I went through hundreds of other schools' policies on this, and the majority is August 31st. So why wouldn't, instead of changing our policy, why don't we change our practice to match what is being done
Wait a
more
minute.
throughout the state on the September 1st?
So you
So,
want to
like,
actually,
make
so a
it
kid
Sep-
who's born September 1st can't come?
No, they can. If
No,
someone's-
no, they wouldn't be able to, because the state is saying August 31st.
So I'm confused because you're contradicting yourself.
No, I'm not, I'm not contradicting myself. The first part, the August 31st, that's what the rest of the majority of the state is doing.
So the wording it was before, prior to September
Was actually
1st.
correct.
Right, yeah, I think that was
Right.
better. Like, I know that you've changed it to reflect what the practice is in Grafton, but why doesn't the practice of Grafton change to what the state is doing instead of changing the policy to reflect the practice?
I have an answer for that.
Okay,
Because if the state actually cared to standardize it, then they would,
Right.
Right.
but they don't.
right,
So,
but the majority of the schools in the Commonwealth use August 31st.
But I think most people in Grafton expect it to be September 1st, to be honest.
Well, not if you're moving here, though. Like,
Well.
what if you moved here from Shrewsbury?
But at the same time, you've also said that you think that there should be exceptions to it.
There should be
so-
exceptions, but there should be, there shouldn't be if you're gonna put a target date, while this policy in itself isn't contradicting itself either, the policy had a date, the policy as it stood was not a contradiction to itself. I'm just stating that I agree with what the policy stated from MASC.
I don't care if it's the third. I mean, I think September 1st is round. People expect it. I don't have an issue with staying with the, I don't feel that we
It's
have
the
to change.
on, it's the word on, as opposed to just before.
But I think people expect that their child has to be born by the September 1st.
Yeah, I don't, again, because the majority of districts are doing something, to
Doesn't
me,
mean
there's
we
no
have to.
pedagogical reason.
Right.
I mean, Worcester is December 31st.
Right. but what
Right.
is our-
There's a ton of them that are like that
Yeah.
too. So I don't,
The reason of we do it this way because we've always done it this way, I mean, that's just not a good reason for anything, and
But it's a day. What's
Why?
the good reason for changing it to August
Just the
31st? Because
consistency.
everybody else
for
has?
consistency purposes more
if
than.
we were the only district in the state that did it this way, I could see it. But we're far from it, far from it. I don't see a compelling reason to change it, because the people who live here and raised their first kids here and now are taking care of their grandkids, the expectation is on or before September 1st. And I know this because there was a whole thread on one of the Facebook groups in the fall about it. And I was in the thread and Laura was in the thread, and there was confusion because this policy was on the website and it was worded differently than past practice. And so I'm not gonna die on the hill, but I don't think it's worth changing just because
I mean, I was just bringing it as a discussion.
51% or whatever the districts in the state are doing it a certain way.
Well, I'm not comfortable making that decision tonight anyway. If we were gonna make a big decision like that, I'd wanna phase it in because it's already January. If your
Yeah.
kid was born, I mean, I don't know how many kids are born September 1st, but there's, 2 people or whatever. That's
It
a.
matters, though.
It
It
matters.
does
So I
matter.
wouldn't wanna make a change like that without being a little more thoughtful or, like phasing it in, right? By, we'd have to put a year in.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd have to have
I
heads
think
up
there's a lot
than-
more discussion around
Yeah.
changing
I don't
that.
disagree with that.
The other concern that Christy brought up, I'd love to think a little bit more about, and talk again to Jay and the principals. We
principal.
need to have, if we bring it back, we have to have something. It can't be the inequitable, it's very murky.
There have to be some guidelines around
And
it.
it's not fair to the principals or to the students, and exactly what you said, one principal could be like all in and one isn't, and it's not fair on them,
Well,
but
what
I
if one doesn't have
understand.
room. I mean,
Well, exactly.
like,
I mean, it's discretion, I know why we put that in, but they've already expressed that this is not helpful to them, and I don't wanna be making policies that are making things a little crazy, but I would like to give it some more thought, because I think Christy, brings up good thoughts, and we need to discuss it a little bit more, I think, and it's the first reading, so let's do work
Yep.
and,
Yep.
figure it out, and we might still recommend this, and then we can have another discussion or a vote.
Madam Chair,
yeah,
I would just like to bring up that if you do remove that line, the admission of children whose birthdays fall after September 1st will solely be at the schools. If you remove that, the second part of this, initial admission of children to first grade, by not putting then a date in that, you open yourselves up, since kindergarten is not a requirement by state law. So you're not saying a first grade age?
To sending kids who are 4 to first grade, is that what you're like?
Yeah. I mean,
this is the MASC policy.
And the
no,
readiness
but
of,
I'm just telling you,
I don't disagree with you, but, the last policy, it was, well, MASC says this. Well, this is what MASC says. So maybe we need to
Because-
have them
but-
clarify it.
well, MASC allows for exceptions in the kindergarten thing, and they're allowing for it in the first grade thing. But if you're taking out the exception on kindergarten, then you can't allow for exception in first grade.
well, I think that but it, to me, and absolutely happy to look into this more and talk about it more. And I apologize, Madam Chair. Can I,
For what?
because I just kind of jumped in.
I'm used to it.
I know, sorry. Especially with me, I'm bad at it. Impulsive. So to me, it says it involves a consideration of both chronological age and the readiness of the child. I assume this is when a parent who can't get their kid into kindergarten sends their kid to private school for kindergarten and then brings them back for first grade, and they're ready to do the work of first grade.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
When we actually had that discussion, it was more because people were moving in, like, from other, you remember, yeah, from other towns who had started in like Worcester, and then they would come here, and they had to be 6 to go into kindergarten at one point, and they were already had, or 6 to go into first grade, and they had already done kindergarten, but they moved, it was like, it was wonky, so
Similar,
that was
yeah.
why too, but,
Kindergarten was,
First
the
grade.
word I'm trying to say is Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Connecticut
Same.
has a statewide
December.
deadline.
Yeah.
And so we had families moving here from Connecticut whose kids already completed kindergarten. We can't tell them, no, you can't put your kid in first grade. They've completed kindergarten, therefore, they're ready to do the work, is my recollection.
Right.
Jay's
Yeah.
looking at me, so I'm
Okay.
hoping that means I'm right.
That's my recollection.
Yeah, okay. All right, what's the committee's pleasure? Take it as a first, accept it as a first reading, or decline it and send it back?
There's a motion on the table.
Well,
happy
well,
to
yeah,
take
we'll
it.
be either,
I'd
we
like
vote it
to
up or
vote
down.
on it.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of accepting JEB as a first reading?
Aye.
4 in favor. Opposed? 1. Okay, motion carries. It is in a first reading.
Then we'll take the feedback and bring back a second revised, possibly revised, for sure.
Can, I know that we already voted, but can I make a statement, Madam Chair?
Yep.
I also feel like if there was an exceptional child who was blah, blah, like, the district would always,
No, they won't.
have a conversation. But I feel like you need to have a hard line. So I agree with removing that. So I just wanted to put that on the table for when you guys have your future conversations.
To just respond to that, to Rebecca, the district has never allowed for any exception to that rule of the kindergarten entrance, even with exceptional children, even with notes, even with letters, even with binders of information, the district has never taken. Is that correct, Dr. Cummings, when I say that? Is that correct, Dr.
Never in the
Cummings?
past 14 years, I would
That
say
you've been
that,
here,
but
yeah.
I can't speak to never.
That you, under your supervision?
correct.
Yes,
Yes.
never
100%.
has that happened.
On a further note, there is vast information on the damage you can do to your child from putting them in kindergarten too young, and vast data on the benefits of putting them in later. So I am still happy to have that removed.
We'll do some work on it.
Thanks, everybody.
Is that our last one?
Appreciate your help.
was.
How was it?
All right, member reports. Go ahead, Rebecca.
I attended the wellness event at Milbury Street Elementary School. It was really well done. It was like a really crappy evening, and they still had great attendance, and they had really great activities. My kids had a great time. We brought a lot of things home. I wish my kids, paid more attention to when we were making like our bead meditation things. They were really just making bead things, and we're very excited. And I'm like, it's for breathing. Pay attention, we're breathing. But, we're working on it, slow and steady. Baby steps. Oh, exactly. We painted rocks. I mean, it was great. There was a dog there, which we didn't make it there in time to see, but it was really well done. And I was really impressed with the turnout, and the kids were having a really good time. And I also attended the Worcester Railers game, the Grafton Night at the Worcester Railers. That was great. Chorus and band did fabulously. It was really fun. Also cold, but it's cool.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
I also attended the wellness night. I must have been there before you, because I didn't.
I was there late.
Yeah, I didn't see you there. I attended a South Grafton PTO meeting, which was very interesting. They're talking about doing, in addition to the fun run, like a reading type of run. Not run, but you know what I'm saying, like kids read for hours, you get sponsored, you get.
Readathon.
Readathon, there we go, that's the word. So they're talking about that, and I've been to multiple VEX competitions over the last 2 weeks, where I sit in gym and I swear I'm going to bring pom-poms, but I've been told not to. And currently, I'm trying to get out of going to ski club tomorrow. So if anybody is interested in volunteering at ski club tomorrow, my husband is not here, and I can't leave my 10-year-old. So if anybody else, I'm looking at you, Dr. Cummings, would be interested in ski club volunteering tomorrow. I have volunteered for 3 years for ski club.
I would volunteer my daughter, but she went back to college. Maybe there's a college kid around that we could.
For the middle school, that would be ideal. That would be lovely.
I'm good.
Just because I was not here, I'm sure Jay talked about it, but I had the opportunity to serve lunch at the high school in December, and it was phenomenal. And
You got great reviews.
apparently, it was the talk of several students that I was there.
It was.
And it's great to know that I can still, get some buzz in a high school. No, but it was a great opportunity. I was super impressed with the Whitsons and like the meals that they served.
Oh.
And we're lucky to have them. I really can't say that enough. So it was pretty cool. And I loved just being in the school and having some fun.
I wanted to congratulate all of our high school students who performed over the weekend at districts for band and chorus, and 2 members of our band also qualified for the orchestra, which is very exciting.
Awesome.
I did not get to see the concert myself, but I heard it was wonderful and everybody did a great job. I think that's all I have. We have no correspondence. I'm just going to double check, because I accidentally prematurely adjourned a meeting once. There's no executive session needed.
No.
And so, unless there's any other item that can come before the committee, as Christy runs out the door, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, Grafton.
Have a good evening.
Good night, Christy.